So the fire phase, what is it and how do we work with it? What does it really mean practically? Fire, in essence, is about expansion. It's like the desire to be in all of our fullness, to be in all of our potential, to be really fully seen. It's the part of the cycle that relates to summer. Yeah, but it's like things coming to fullness, so it's most often associated with yang. And yeah, just a reminder with this, I make a distinction between the five, how I talk about it with the 5 phases, and most people talk about it as 5 elements, because we tend to think of elements as a thing. The 5 phases of Chinese medicine aren't things, they're transition points, they're transformations, they're movement through a circle. You have yin on one side, yang on the other side, as 2 extremes. And there's the process of change that goes between those 2. The cycle of 5 elements, the cycle of 5 phases describes this process between the 2. I do say elements, just think phases. Spent so much time reading and hearing as elements, it occasionally pops out of my mouth. So this, you think fire, think summer. Yeah, it's like the blood literally comes to the outside of the skin. Everything comes up and out. Clothes come off. We get hot. When our bodies get hot, they sweat, they radiate heat. Everything's out. Think passion, that fullness of passion. We're like yearning. There's a sense of wanting to merge, to become one with, really like shining out from our center. This is the element, the key element of the phase. So just like right now, I just want you to get in touch with like your own desire within yourself to be in your fullness, to shine, to really radiate. And it's like placed right from the center of you. Not feeling in your center, do some of the centering exercises can help if you're not quite getting this. But just feel inside, just like feel like a light is shining. Feel that part that just really wants to be seen, really wants to be held. And there might be layers around that shirk away from it, but underneath it there's this part of it. Some people it's going to be stronger, some people it's going to be quieter. People who are really strong in the fire energy really want to get out there, they really want to be seen, they really want to be a big bright light, they want to be up on stage. There's a lot of performance and things that can have this. So in all of our makeup we have different strengths of how strong these energies are within us. So just feel that for a moment. So it might be a quiet fire, it might be a strong fire for you, but feel that within. Feel like a shining in your being, a shining in all directions. It's like the feeling of summer, of a high tide, of the full moon, of midday, the established fire when it's just humming away on the wood and just burning up the wood. Not when it's just getting going and just getting established, not when it's old and there's old smouldering coals. They're different phases. When it's bright, it's shining, the light can be seen everywhere. This is fire. And there's a real underlying sense of openness in here, yeah? This sense of like wanting to become one with, merge with, connect with is an essential part of fire. Like it gets out of control, it can kind of consume, become too much, take us beyond our boundaries, beyond our sense of where we feel safe or where we actually feel established and solid within ourselves, and can also burn up what's there. It's like getting too much fire, too much of this can actually burn up our nourishment, our core. We can get depleted and exhausted. There's definite sides to this. There's a destructive side and a generative side. So we're going to break those down a little bit, particularly in terms of emotions and what they look like. So let's say this destructive side, it's when it gets too much, we kind of lose ourselves, if you like. But it also can come out particular ways of how we sort of attack ourselves or each other. So this destructive side, as I said, one side, this over-identification, this merging with, this actually losing a sense of our own individuation, our own individual self. And the other side of which it comes out is judgment, judging ourselves or judging others. It's almost like a sense of like judging others or ourselves for not being all of who we can be, for not being all of who they can be, for not being living up to their potential, for not being who we see that they can be, for not being who we see that we can be. Yeah, it's like an attack, the fire. It's harsh, it's hot, it's scalding. So yeah, feel within yourself for a moment the feeling of that judgment, of where and how it feels when you judge yourself. Who burns you or burns another. And most of our response to that is to shut down. Let's do the opposite. So this is the destructive, the imbalanced side of it. And the generative side of it. What's the generative side of it? The generative side of it, on one side, is discernment. So I like to think about this as yin and yang. The yang one's on the destructive side of judgment, and the generative side of the yang is discernment. It's like, well, what needs to come in and out? What, being discerning about what you merge, connect with, and don't. Being discerning about how you approach yourself, how you come to approach not being all of who you can be, for example. It's a real sense of discernment about who you let in, who you don't, what you let into your mind, what you let into your heart, what you allow to affect you. It's a really powerful and necessary quality. And more of the yin side, the yin is this over-identification. The generative side is compassion, like just real compassion, really deeply seeing. And compassion is not just a passive thing, it's a really active seeing in, like, wow, yeah, I can really see what's happening for them. I can see their potential, I see what they can be. And yeah, I can sort of see also all the things that are really holding them back, because I really choose to see in there. And I do that with myself, and we can do that with ourselves too. Here's my sense of all I can, here's what I want, but yeah, there's all these other things. I'm far more complex than just my ideals and my potential. There's a whole rich and glorious complex system going on. It's seeing ourselves with compassion. And so there's a deep level of just understanding and holding ourselves. Yeah, so internally, in terms of our emotions in particular, these are the two sides of it. And that generative side really supports the heart and strengthens the heart, really supports and strengthens the blood in the body. And nourishes that, and it's when we're able to be in that really generative place, it really naturally feed our groundedness. And naturally be more grounded, more just like connected, it just automatically flows on. It also helps to shape and to like tone, if you like, our courage. And to keep that flowing and warm and strong, and to actually help to modify and limit the effects of any grief or worry that we have. Yeah, that's really in that generative phase. This is how it affects the earth being that, the earth being the groundedness, that's what it feeds. And what the fire, say, shapes or constrains is the metal. It keeps in the negative, destructive stuff in check, and then can really sort of support the structure, the action of the courage, of the positive side of it. And if we're in the destructive side, there's a lot of self-judgment, a lot of that negativity. What happens? Well, it attacks the heart. We get ungrounded. We tend to worry, have a lot of worry and anxiety. It'll actually sort of overheat the spleen. the upright chi will kind of collapse. It'll actually attack the lungs. Yeah, it's like it's excessive. Take an example of that. Excessive judgment will tend to lend itself to us having a lot of grief and regret. It's just like, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't live up to that. I didn't make this happen and blah, blah, blah. It's like it really feeds into that. It attacks our spirit, our chi, our mind. It leaves us feeling vulnerable and exposed. There's a pretty good comprehensive argument for being in that more generative side of things. So yeah, a really good flip and a really good switch around this sort of more yang side of things is looking at taking this judgment into discernment. Yeah, looking at how you're discerning and how you need to actually sort of limit that over-identification. It's a really good way is to sort of bring and hold yourself in and really applying a lot of compassion. Be willing to see underneath what's going on. It's like not judging yourself by what you can do, by what you have done, by looking at, but not so judging, but assessing yourself, assessing your progress, assessing what you've done by actually, well, what is actually going on? What is actually there? So how do we nourish and clear and build the positive generative side of the fire element? So part of the key bit that feeds it, it's wood. It feeds on wood, yeah? And it's burning the wood to generate fire. What burns it? The underlying wood is our action, how we act. It's simply doing things. And so we're doing it from a sort of kind and generous place, a place of really giving value. Yet not trying to get or take or manipulate. It's actually really generous, really, virtuous action. When we're coming and acting from that place, we get something different going on because that will naturally feed the compassion. Will naturally feed the understanding when acting from that place. Like, okay, we're doing this, so it's not quite getting the results that I want. But if it's feeling that's coming from a really good place within you, it's really easy. It's a lot easier to be able to go like, oh yeah, but I've got this and this happening. Yeah, really a lot more easily see that in somebody else. There's a real bedrock of it. And the element that really helps to kind of constrain fire and stop it from getting too much is water. Yeah, it keeps it cool, so it cools it down, stops it from overheating. And the fundamental quality of that is gentleness. And the underlying property is like rest and nourishment. So if you're rested enough and nourished enough, that really supports your fire to be held, to be contained, to not burn too much, to not get too much, not collapse into over-identification or go out into attack, into judgment. It helps to keep it moderate. When we're rested, we'll be a lot more centered. We're able to have a gentleness within ourselves. It helps to moderate and to feed that, yeah? But what will really attack it and that judgment and strip down that compassion is fear. If we've got a lot of fear in our body, it will tend to attack the heart, attack the fire element. That's the unbalanced water. And then, with the unbalanced wood, that's anger and frustration. We've got a lot more anger and frustration happening. It's like, it's almost a really obvious, to me, it's a really obvious jump in. If you're angry and frustrated, it's so easy to judge people. It's so easy to kind of go into that attack side of things. Yeah, when that all kind of gets too much internally, it can also lead to the over-identification side of things, when we're just really angry and frustrated with ourselves and begin to not trust ourselves, not trust our own truth, our own spirit, our own brightness. So the fire element's very much associated with our spirit, with our subtle body, if you like. And so I want to make room for that to be open, to be balanced. It's like we can really bring more of ourselves in. We can let that shining of our spirit, that shining of our fire that we can let out, we can let a lot more in. Let a lot more of us be here in our body. And an essential part of what fire invites us to do is to actually go beyond our boundaries, go beyond what we knew was possible. So think about this in terms of the wood, the action. We do something, we act, we achieve something. We've done something. What happens at that point? We begin getting confident in a new capability. Yeah, if there's something you've never done before, it's scary, it's big, it takes a lot of courage, you step through it, you do it, you get it done, and you get it done. It's suddenly like, oh, okay, cool. If I need to do that again, I'll be better able to do that again. I've got a new capability. Your world expands. The previous limits of what you sensed you could do, of who you were, have been expanded and changed. That's the heart of fire. Suddenly you're bigger. Suddenly you're more. Suddenly you're capable of more. You can do and be something slightly different. And you can take a step. It's a really core teaching of fire. Yeah, and pretty much all the elements are sort of much more how we kind of structure and how we structure ourselves, how we contain, constrain, shape, act, do all these things. Fire is just expansive. It just invites us to keep going beyond, to be more of who we are, to open, to flourish. And love is a really big part of this and how we relate. It's like this, the passion of love and desire. It's a really big part of the fire, of just wanting to connect, wanting to feel, and to share our fire, to share our brightness, to be just fully, deeply seen and touched and loved, and to move into that full space where we feel our light just completely lights up and becomes the one fire with another. Yeah, it's all part of the deep, passionate sexiness of fire. And part of what keeps us locked down from expressing our desire is our ideas about who we are. Our old ideas, our old structures, our old ways of thinking, our old ways of trying to do things that simply aren't working. Our old belief patterns, our old habits that we're in that just aren't working anymore. The fire just it yearns to be able to expand beyond those, burn beyond those, do something different and flourish in a different way. So this is fire. Feel now. The very center of you. Look at yourself with compassion, with all of you. In the deep, sensitive place within. Just hold it. Love it. Be discerning about what you let in there and what you let out from it, and actually feel really good about your discernment. What or who have you said no to? What or who have you said yes to? What do you actually need to say no to that you've said yes to? Maybe what else is there that you habitually say no to that perhaps you need to say yes to? It's like your heart, your body intelligence knows. Don't use your mind for this. Use your body intelligence, your heart, the center. One of the things in the Qigong works, we're not just talking about the physical heart, we're talking about the energetic organ. The energetic organ is centered right in the center and shines in all directions. Yeah, the physical heart's very associated with it. It's slightly on the side, but it's not just that. Let your heart from this center shine. Smile at your heart. The energy, structure, and the physical heart. Just let them soften for a moment. Let yourself shine. Be compassionate towards yourselves. Seek, find, hunt compassion for others. Is there anybody who are used to judging or you have judged recently? You see them with the eyes of compassion. Doesn't mean you have to let them in. You can be discerning. Like, actually, I'm already compassionate with that person and myself. Yeah, cool, I can understand, but I don't need to let it in. And who do you yearn to really connect with from this place, merge with, or what do you yearn to merge with? And looking back in your life, Roman, can you see the times and places where your fire's really flourished? Where you have taken an action, you've done something, you've developed a new capability, and you've shone. You've exceeded your boundaries, you've stepped to something new. A new job, education, families, all sorts of ways in which we do this throughout our lives. Something new opens up, a new vista that we can build on. So feel that fire, feel your shining. Give yourself permission to shine, even just quietly. It doesn't have to be a big outward expressing, it can just be deep, quiet shining within. In fact, a lot of the Tao sages traditionally would, kind of with an emphasis on keeping their light a little bit covered, like putting a sort of light cloth over a lamp, just to keep their shining a little bit contained, a little bit protected from the world, not making a big fuss or song and dance about it. But of course, some others did. It depends on the makeup of your character and what you're trying to do. The most important thing is that you're connected with your flame, your light. You're allowing that to shine for yourself. Cool, so hopefully that's given you a bit of a deeper understanding of the fire phase and the energy of the fire phase, the qi and qualities within it. Happy to answer any questions. See you in class.